Don't pay someone $5,000 a month to do something when it's very hard to make $5,000 a month back. But if it's $100 and that's okay for you, right? Maybe you say, yeah, $100 a month isn't terrible. It's a big investment for me, but it's very important for me. Let me try a month and see what happens. Podcast Growth Nation, welcome back to another episode of Podcast Growth University, where we talk all things podcasting all the time. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode number 83. How much does your social media following actually matter? I know that one was probably a confusing episode, but hopefully it was valuable as it was confusing. Today, for episode number 84, when should you delegate your podcast work? That word delegate, I think, is a challenging word for many of us, especially if we have never done that before. If we've never hired somebody to help us with something that we were growing on our own. I had a call with somebody recently, and this person said, I'm struggling to have enough time to do all the things that I need to do in order to grow the podcast, whether it's create social media content, whether it's do the editing, whether it's do the promotion, all of that stuff. And I said, well, if you need help with that, let me know, because that's something that we do. And these are our offerings, and this is how much it would cost for what you're looking for. And the person messaged me back and they said, wow, that's super affordable. Unfortunately, I think I should probably wait until I start making money first. Now, logically, that makes a ton of sense. Logically, it makes sense to say, I'm not going to invest money until I'm making money. But there is the saying that sometimes it costs money to make money. Sometimes you got to spend money to make money. It's this weird if-then statement. If what you're doing is not sustainable, then you most likely will not get to the next level. But we mean that on two fronts. If it's not sustainable from the amount of time you're putting in, you probably won't get to the next level. If you're investing too much money and it's not sustainable, you most likely won't get to the next level. When should you delegate your podcast work? When the amount of work you're doing is holding you back from doing work that you'd make money for, is kind of the simplest way to put it. This is a really good thought, okay? I have someone that I know who is an entrepreneur in real estate. And I remember we were having a discussion and he said, well, I gotta go mow my lawn. And I remember we had a discussion. I said, how long does it take you to mow your lawn? And he said, maybe like an hour. And I said, all right, how much would it cost for you to have someone come out and do it? Then he gave me a price. And I said, okay, how much money could you make in that hour if you did the research and you made your connections? How much would you make off of the sale of a house? And he gave me the number. So let's say it was $5,000 he would make. It's $100 to pay somebody to do it for an hour. In theory, he's literally losing the opportunity to make $5,000 because he doesn't want to spend $100. Now, yes, that means he has to spend the time that he would be mowing the lawn, actually working on the business. And yes, that is dependent on him actually getting a client. But just as an example, that is kind of what we're saying here. Delegation is paying for something to be done because you could make more money in that time doing something else. And this is really how a business is built in the grand scheme of things. In the beginning, I did all the audio editing and video editing. Then it got to a point where I couldn't keep up. So we started hiring a team. And we have the best team in the world. Shout out to our team. They are editing this. They edited this in order to get it up here and live. Then eventually we started to get clients. And the clients would pay us to do their podcasts. And then our team grew and our team grew and our team grew. But that never would have happened if we didn't start by delegating in the beginning. Now, I started delegating because we had the opportunity to make money helping someone with their podcast, so it actually made sense. But even if that didn't happen, we would have got to the point where it would have cost us more money to do it ourselves just because we wouldn't have had the time to do other things. So that really is the answer. You should delegate your podcast work when it is holding your growth back, not just in listens, not just in social media, but in your ability to make money. The sad thing about what that person said, this podcaster I was talking to, when they said, well, I'll probably do that when I start making more money, they most likely will never make the money because they're trading right now their time instead of having the opportunity in the space to be able to go out and make money. It's this weird thing. It's the chicken or the egg thing. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Nobody seems to know. It's kind of the same with delegation. When should you delegate? Should you wait until you make money, or should you do it before you make money so you can make money? It really depends on your skill level when it comes to making money. I would give the advice differently to different people. Some people are just literally leaving money on the table. There's money to be had, but they don't have the time to go pick it up. Other people, they're probably going to want to do their work longer before they delegate because maybe they don't have an understanding of business yet. Maybe they don't have an understanding of sales yet. Maybe they just don't get it. They don't get it yet. They haven't been in it long enough. Now, here's a really good example. We got a big client recently. So we have something called Next Level Social Media, where we do people's social media. We create the content, we do the captions, we post it, we take care of all that. We got a client recently who owns 25 businesses. And he said, just as a test run, I want to get rolling and I'll give you 5 businesses. And you can do the social media for these 5 businesses. Right now, I am the one who's doing all that. I have not delegated that yet. The reason is because I want to make sure we're absolutely over-delivering, and not that I don't trust our team. I know our team is going to do an amazing job regardless, but it's a very specific client who has very specific businesses who you got to do some research, and it just takes a lot of time. I am getting to the point now where I'm not able to keep up with that and the opportunities for growth that we have. It's almost time for me to delegate that because I know internally, yes, it's getting done. Yes, it's getting done well. Yes, the client is happy, but I'm kind of bottlenecking myself and the company from getting more clients because my time is non-existent at this point. It's got to be that kind of conversation. So there's usually 2 types of people. There's people that delegate too soon, or there's people that wait too long to delegate. The people that delegate too soon, usually, this is a good example, somebody delegated us, they were doing 5 episodes a week and they gave us all of that business. And recently they reached out and said, hey, I've hit some financial snags, I'm going to have to pull back. They delegated too soon because they weren't making enough money and they couldn't make enough money fast enough to make up for it. 5 episodes a week is a lot, right? That adds up.
I just wanted to take a quick second and give a shout out and a huge thank you to Next Level Podcasting Solutions, Kevin and his team. They have been incredible to work with, very flexible, on the spot with any questions that I have or any concerns that I have. When I first started out my podcast, I was doing everything on my own. I have no editing background. I have no podcasting background. I knew nothing about it. And so I was bootstrapping all of this myself while I was still trying to take on my role as a full-time mom. And once I met up with Kevin and we had these discussions and I got on board with adding an editing team, oh my goodness, it just lifted this weight off of me. It lifted my time that I was spending doing my editing. And in the beginning, full transparency, when I was editing just my individual recordings, it was a little more manageable, not super manageable. And then when I started doing my interviews for the podcast, it was hours upon hours of me doing the editing that didn't include any of the promotional material that I am now getting from Kevin and his team. It wouldn't have been sustainable. I would not have been able to keep up with that. So I recommend Kevin and his team. They have done wonderful work in helping me grow my podcast. I have really enjoyed working with the editing team, and it definitely feels like more of a team environment versus me hiring them to do a specific job. I mean, we all work collaboratively on the projects that I have, and I have these crazy ideas sometimes, and they come up with a solution to fit my needs. I can't recommend them enough. I really enjoyed working with them. Kevin and the Next Level Podcasting Solutions, thank you so much for the work that you have done in the past and are continuing to do for me. I'm growing this community and growing this platform with a beautiful team that is working for me and with me to see my vision and help that come to life. So thank you again so much. I really appreciate you guys.
But I've also had other people who it might cost them, let's say it might cost them $200 a month for everything that they need. All you got to do is get one client and that pays for itself. That's really kind of the thought here. It's, if we were to put it on a scale, how much time, energy, effort, and focus am I putting in? And how much is that holding me back from potentially making money versus do I have to just pay the cost of being the boss of this podcast here for a while and learn how to do this, learn how to do this, and learn how to do this? That really is the thought. Now, the secondary thought, going back to my buddy mowing his lawn, can you make more money doing something else than you would be making doing the thing that you're going to delegate? That is another question that you have to ask. But one of the most common things I'm seeing is people are waiting too long to delegate and they fall out of love with the podcast. Most of us did not start the podcast or our podcasting journey because we wanted to do audio editing and video editing. We started it because we wanted to add impact. We wanted to get our message out there. We wanted to interview amazing people. That back office stuff, the behind the scenes stuff for a lot of us is not what we want to be doing. So that's another important thing to look at. If you're going to do it, how long are you actually going to be willing to do it for before you say, this is not it? So there's a lot of things to juggle around when it comes to this. The amount of money you're going to be paying is a huge importance as well. If you're paying $1,000 a month, that adds up. That's a lot of money. If you're paying $200 a month, that's a little bit different. Maybe that's where you get your foot in the door and see what it feels like. The other thing is you can always do a month and see what happens. That's another important thing. Just because you start delegating does not mean you have to give everything away, and it doesn't mean you have to do it forever. But it is good to see what it feels like and how much time ultimately it buys you. And this isn't everything. This isn't just podcasting. This is in business in general. You're always going to be delegating stuff so you can do different stuff to grow and then kind of rinse and repeat. So where are you right now in terms of your journey of delegation? Do you think you're somebody who would delegate too soon? Or do you think you're someone who would delegate too late? I find the majority of people, it's too late. So that's a couple of self-awareness questions to ask yourself. And then ask yourself, is there a number you could afford to delegate? So a dollar amount or pound amount, whatever the currency is for you wherever you live. Is there an amount that you could afford to do? And where should you start? And what will you do with the time that you're saving? I think those are all really, really important questions. Again, if you're paying somebody to do your podcast, but then you're out at the beach, it's not necessarily going to make the money back and it's not going to work. It's not going to snowball the way it should. If you're financially free, that's a different conversation. So there's a couple of those thoughts around there. Some people, when they start their podcast, they immediately delegate to us because they have plenty of money. They're not worried about money. They're worried about time. Other people on the other side, they don't have that much money. They're very tight financially, so they're going to invest their time. The goal is eventually to get to the point where it's like, okay, I'm either making an extra $200 a month or I can support an extra $200 a month. Let me get rid of this. Let me save myself 8 hours a month. And with those 8 hours, I believe I can make X amount. I believe with those 8 hours, I can go find 3 clients. I believe I can go get a speech. I can do other things that are going to bring me revenue. So the longest / shortest answer, you should delegate your podcast work when you have the opportunity to make more money than it's costing you. Or you have the opportunity to put more time into that and it's sustainable. My guess is that this person who I talked to who said, I'll probably start delegating when I'm making money, most likely will never make enough money to actually get that process rolling. And I don't mean that negatively. When I gave them our price, they literally said that's wildly affordable. So it doesn't sound like they can't afford it. It sounds like they don't want to do it until they're making money, but it is that chicken or the egg situation. Sometimes you've got to delegate the stuff that's stopping you from making money if you can afford it. Other times you got to do the stuff and you got to keep doing it while trying to figure out how to make money. So it really depends on where you are in your journey. I would say do the thing that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, not anxiously uncomfortable. Don't pay someone $5,000 a month to do something when it's very hard to make $5,000 a month back. But if it's $100 and that's okay for you, right? Maybe you say, yeah, $100 a month isn't terrible. It's a big investment for me, but it's very important for me. Let me try a month and see what happens. What can you do with that extra time? What can you do with the time that you're buying back? That is my ultimate thought with all of this. Podcast Growth Nation, if you want to talk about what you should delegate, book a free 30-minute podcast breakthrough session. I can help you figure out exactly what you should delegate and why, or what you shouldn't delegate and why. Maybe you need help doing a new intro, a new outro, a new trailer, artwork, whatever it is. I would be happy to hop on a Zoom and add value in that department. So link will be in the show notes. Next week for episode number 85, one common mistake crushing your growth. This is something that I am hyper focused on, but I know a lot of other people aren't. And I had a very powerful conversation with a client the other day, and I pushed them in a different direction that they wanted to go in. And on the end of the call, he literally said, very grateful for this call because I think I was about to make a massive mistake here. So we're going to talk about that next week for episode number 85. As always, I appreciate you all very, very much. I hope the podcasting is going well. I hope the voice is not creating a sore throat. It's not really a real sentence, but I hope you don't have a sore throat, is what I'm trying to say. I hope you feel more comfortable on YouTube. I hope you're practicing your speaking and not saying like, well, you can say like if you want, but you're using the pickle practice. Sounds strange. And I hope the podcast journey is going very, very well for you. As you can tell, I'm in a very good mood. It's early on a Friday when I'm recording this because I am behind. It's all going to be all right though. Until next week, keep on podcasting, keep on crushing it. I appreciate you all, and we will talk to you soon.